So this is you at how old?
Well, it's about 4 to 6 months, isn't it? Not very old.
And where were you?
That was in Wall's End, England, near Newcastle. Yeah.
And this one below it?
And that one below it, that would be there too on the farm, probably in the same place.
And that's you out front in the little dress.
Me, and Willie, and Belle. And that aunt is the same one as this, same sister. That'd be older. My dad's sisters. I don't know them by name. I wrote to one for years, and that's the same sister again. And this one, that's the one I'm named after, I can tell by her eyes. That's Aunt Ellie. That's my mother. That must have been a friend.
So how old were you when you moved to Canada?
I was 2 years and 10 months. 2 years and 10 months.
You don't remember too much of that?
I remember part of the boat. Belle always told me that, oh, you don't remember it, it's just because you were told it. But I can remember getting vaccinated before I left for smallpox.
Wow.
And I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Huh.
The doctor said it was just a pin. Said it was just a pinprick, and I was screaming and yelling. He was trying to hang on to me. He was sitting in a chair, and I slid down on the floor trying to get away from him. And I can remember that.
Wow.
And I don't care what anybody says, I remember it. And ooh, watch those bottles.
It was my leg.
Anything in them, they might just go take off and fly.
It was just my leg.
They're all empty anyway, actually. I should phone it and get a new one. And anyway, and I also remember the big rocking horse on the ship. Even though I was sick, I almost died on the boat coming over.
Really?
Yeah, with pneumonia. And that's why that's what I think has happened to me now. I think it's. I asked the doctor about it, and he said it could be a scar tissue then. But I had been sick before I left. Before we left England, they postponed the trip because of it. And when they left, I took a relapse on the boat. And my dad always said that it was brandy that saved my life. The doctor said there's nothing that he could do for me anymore. Can I give her some brandy? He said, you can't hurt her. So he swore to his dying day it was brandy that saved my life.
Wow, he gave you a shot of brandy that revived you.
Brandy and sugar. It's a heart stimulator.
Yeah.
But he said, yeah, they almost buried me at sea.
Wow.
So can you imagine coming over with a baby 10 months old and another sick one at 2 years and 10 months, and another one at 5 years and 10 months, and another one 7. You can have that if you want. You can have that thing.
And who is this young man?
That's Logan. Isn't that?
What's your name?
Have you got a name? Have you got a name? No? Sure you got a name. You got a name. We know. Now we came to Central Butte, Saskatchewan, on the farm. And this was our next door neighbors who were about from here to Safeways away from us. They lived. And that was the oldest son, Earl. He was killed during the war in England. And this was a hound dog that we found when we were going down this old guy here lived way down in the valley. And we were going down there one time with horse and buggy. And this dog showed up. They used to hunt rabbits down there with hounds. Used to put them in their car. They'd let them loose and let them hunt rabbits. But he must have got lost from somebody, and we found him. But Earl always claimed it was his dog. It was his dog. It was his dog. But it wasn't. And we lost him the same way we found him. we went out through the hills, and he took off after a rabbit. We never saw him again. All over a hill. And this down at old Martin's place too. Yeah. That's old Frank Martin. He was a bachelor, and he made, and that's where we first tasted porcupine. He used to. He cooked porcupine and everything else for us. That's me, and that's Ronnie, and Belle, and I think Grandpa is holding all of. See the baby there. So. My aunt that was over visiting from England, my mother's sister, that's my Aunt Ellie. She visited here in 1939. She came over in 39 before the war started, and she was supposed to go back in December, and she never made it. The war started, and they wouldn't let her go back. So she was here for a year the following December. And the first boat that was sunk was the one she was supposed to go back on. First time, yeah. And of course that's Grandma and me with a cat, naturally, and all of it marked. And that was sort of in front of our house, just down a little bit from there.
So what was life like on the farm there?
Life on the farm was not easy for our parents.
Yeah.
And I think every kid should go through some part of what we went through, because it sure gives you, don't lose that. It sure gives you an insight on what's happening today, you know, with the kids, the way they have to have everything. And we were lucky if we got 5 cents on a Saturday night to go buy candy. Mind you, you could buy a lot of candy for 5 cents in those years too. And I can remember Ronnie one time, his dad had given him, no, his mom had given him 5 cents. So then when he run into Pop, he said, "Oh, did you get your nickel yet?" And he said, "No." So he went and bought 10 cents worth of licorice, all sorts, and he was sicker than a dog. And to this day, he won't even look at a licorice, all sorts. So you can imagine. So it served him right. He wouldn't even share them. And so that was Saturday night in town was a good night. That was our night. The whole, some of us went to the movies, and some of us just kicked around town. Stores were all open. And
So how old were you when that was happening?
that time I would be, well, right from the time we moved there until I left there. We lived there for 14 years, from 1927 to 1941. And I was like from 3 years old to 17. I was 17 when we moved here. And Pop joined the Air Force just to get away from the farm. That was his excuse. And that's why we came to Calgary, because he was stationed here.
Oh, where's his head? Where's his head?
His head's on the table. Well, I went to the country school, so let's see, it must have been in grade 6. I was in grade 6 when we moved to town. So I took 6, 7, and 8 in grade town. And well, maybe I can't get that off of there. Part of it off anyway. And that was our principal, of course, Mr. Spidell.
This is you graduating from grade 8. That was your final year.
Yeah, final year, June of 1939, from the Central Butte School.
So where'd you go from there?
So there, so from there, let's see, I was 14 when I got through there, 15 I guess. And so I was a couple of years just hanging around home. Oh, I did work. I took a job from from Belle. She was pregnant with Ruth at the time. I was 16. And she was doing a housekeeping job for the barber. And all she was doing was going over in the morning and getting the kid off to school. And she had 12 years. His wife was in Moose Jaw. She had cancer. And so get him off to school, make the beds, mop the floor, get lunch ready for the kid, and in the afternoon just prepare vegetables ready for supper. And then she could go home and the kid after he got home. But being a barber, he had all these little towels. There was another lady that did his washing, but we had to iron all those little towels, barber towels. And he changed his shirt twice a day, white shirt. We had to iron his shirts.
Oh boy.
So anyway, when Belle had to quit, she asked me if I wanted the job, and I said, well, I guess I'll take it, you know. And we got $2 a week. Big job. So I was at that until which wasn't too long, just a few months, and I got German measles. So the doctor said, do you want to be quarantined at work or at home? I said, at home. So that was the end of that job. I was quarantined for 6 weeks with German measles. And then there wasn't too much other than that. Just helping around home, helping Grandma with the kids, helping Mom with the kids. Helping, you know, clean the house and everything. That's all I did. Until we moved here. Oh, and the last summer we were up there, though, that was different. Grandpa joined up in the spring of '41, and he was stationed in Calgary. And so he wanted Grandma to come and stay for the summer. So Willie and me and Ronnie, 2 girls, all went out to the farm to stay for the summer, because Willie was still farming, and he was only 18. But they put Sister Belle, Big Sister Belle, and Big Boss, her husband Ray, out there to help and look after us. Eh? Yeah. The looking after they did, they abused us like a bunch of animals. I had to stay home and wash the kids' dirty diapers while they went to town. And we couldn't write a letter unless they read it. If we wrote a letter to Grandma, Grandpa. So Willie used to write a letter in the machine shed, grab his horse, and take it into town to mail it. And we had a terrible time on the farm. Ron left. He was only, 14? Another farmer just down the road took him in because there was really, he wouldn't listen to anything Ray said. None of us did, but he even took his BB gun and shot him once with the BB gun. So they thought they'd better get him off the farm because there was trouble. So he went to this little, he could hardly see over the steering wheel, but he's driving the tractor for this guy on the farm. And then that was that summer. And then there was a big court case over it because Pop came through and he kicked Ray and Belle off the farm. Said we could do better by ourselves. And that's where I learned to bake bread. At 16, I was baking 12 loaves of bread every second day. And I was baking pies. I'm really good at it. Anyway, after they kicked off the farm, they sued my dad for wages. And he told them, he said, if there was a crop, you would get part of the crop. If there wasn't a crop, you got nothing. You got your groceries, you were kept, you didn't have to pay rent, you didn't have to buy groceries, you had your whole summer free of any debt. That was enough, that's all you got. So they sued him. Now the big court case in town, of course everybody knew about the Thompson's court case in town. And the Mountie that was there at the time, of course Dad won his case. And the Mountie, no, this was before that. I'm getting ahead of it. Before they came for that, they phoned the Mounties and said there was a farm out south and there was a bunch of kids starving to death out there. They weren't eating. So the day that the Mountie came to the door, he said, I hear there's some kids out here needing some food. And I opened the door and I happened to have bread and pies in the oven. Sure doesn't smell like you're starving out here. Dad, and they used to send groceries from Calgary. They mailed them from a store that was called Nagler's. It was like they sold furniture and groceries, everything. And they would ship them. They'd go and make out the order, and Nagler's would ship it right to us. Mm-hmm. So I opened my cupboard doors, and I said, and the stuff was falling out of the cupboards. He said, just take it from where it came from. Don't worry about it. Because he knew my dad really well. So then there was the court case after that. And there was a big fight. Big fight. My dad cornered Ray one time. They were out walking with Ruth in the buggy. We had a livery stable right across the street from our place, about kitty corner. And all these men were out there watching. Because here's Ray walking up the street pushing the baby buggy. And Pop come out of his house, and he was going to clean his clock. You know, probably could have too. Take your goddamn glasses off, he said, you're going to get them. And Ray running around the baby buggy, running around the baby buggy, get away from it. Everybody on the street was watching. Even Gina's family, you know, Ron's wife now, Gina, they lived across the street. They were all out there watching.
Wow.
And it was pretty funny anyway. And so anyway, just before, they left town before we did. And they came out to west of Edmonton. You know that. I forget the, it was Delbert Park. Anyway, that's where they came. And we didn't even know where they were. We moved to Calgary, didn't know where they were, they didn't know where we were, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But before we left there, I don't know if Grandma had gone, we'd gone up to see them, I think maybe when they were leaving. And I'm standing at the door, not coming in. Grandma's talking to them, I forget what it was about. I guess she just wanted to see her before she left, I don't know. And he started on again about us. And he said, and as for that, she shouldn't even be allowed to live. I remember that. I was 16 years old. So, anyway, it took a few years before, you know, we got to Calgary. But Grandma spent that whole summer in Calgary with him. From there on, don't break him. I bought that down in Arizona. Here.
Maybe Grandma can tell you about all these little guys. But there's a story with each one.
Do you have anything else to play with?
The only thing I got to play with is behind me.
So what do we got here? Who are these guys?
There's a story behind some of them. Dan, my friend Dan that passed away, he gave me a bad time over being in the Air Force because he was Navy, eh?
Yeah.
Guess what he gave me one year for my birthday? A sailor. That's from Dan.
Yeah.
He said dogs. That's the guy you need, he said. A real sailor. I think most of the stuff is given to me by different people. This, a lady downstairs made this guy. Neat, cute little guy.
Do you have any puzzles or anything?
No. Just big puzzles.
Can I
I don't know what
see those big puzzles?
else I've got here that's
Can I see those big
I think
puzzles?
Dan gave me this too, because Uncle Ronnie used to always called me Rawhide. He still does. So Dan got hold of that, and he said, gave me this, and he said, that's Rawhide.
Can I see those big puzzles?
Well, there's too many of them. There's 1,000 pieces. And it hasn't even been opened yet. The only one I've got here. The rest are all down the hallway.
I can't see it.
Oh, there's that little cat I thought I'd given away. There's the little guy. Sitting up there.
Two cats, but I don't see the other ones.
You got two cats? You got it?
I thought there was 3 cats.
Well,
Another cat.
I
Another one.
don't know if I got any more cats. Got a bunny rabbit. And there's a little bear. Isn't that cute? And there's a bunny rabbit. He's kind of cute.
He has a diaper.
He's a diaper, does he? Okay. And what else? There's a chicken. Ever see? Well, I got 2 chickens. I got that one and the one that dances.
Can I see? Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, that one's right there. And then we got a panda. You like pandas?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're kind of cute. And I got a pug bear. I got 2 pug bears. I got a big one over there and a little one. Pug bears. Plus I got all these guys up here. I got all these guys up here. Some of them make noises. It's a frog. You pinch him right in the back. Right there. And this guy. It's a pig. And this kitty. Gal here. Her and I had a lot of coffee parties together. And her, that was our neighbor, his sister, the only one that's left in the family, right here. She lives out in Sycamores, BC. Ray and I went to visit her one time. She wasn't overly friendly, and then I found out later that her and Ray had gone together at one time. So I think she didn't. I'm too fussy about having him around. Yeah, we moved to Calgary. No, George, he used to work for us on the farm.
All right. Oh, he's on the farm.
Yeah, oh yeah. He helped out there. For a meal, he used to walk. He'd walk for miles and miles and miles. Sleep in people's straw stacks and stuff at night. And he'd work for nothing really. And he came out from England at 10 years old to work on farms. Can you believe it or not?
He was an orphan.
He was an orphan. Yeah. He was raised in the St. Bernardo homes in England. His mother left him on the doorstep when he was a baby. And then he moved to Calgary after we came here. He moved here. And, you probably remember when he boarded with us for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He worked for Shrub Saw Plumbing, digging ditches and that for, yeah. And, well, this is an old picture of Grandma and Grandpa when they went to, there was friends lived in Craven. Actually, this is this girl here. There's the same one on this picture here, right there. And that's her family. That's her dad. That's her dad. That's my mother. That must have been her mother there. And that's her. And that must have been the family they were visiting, I think, the rest of them. In Craven, Saskatchewan. That's just out of Regina.
Here comes all these pieces.
Don't lose those, please. This actually, when my aunt was here from England, and she stayed with us for a little while, but when she realized she was going to be here for another year, she went and worked for this man. She kept house for him in Central Butte. And that was his son. That's Papa, of course, Dad. In 1939, yeah. Was when she was here. And this is Olive's 10th birthday party. There's where Gina lived, right across the street. We lived over here. They're facing our house. And that's where Gina lived, there. And that's the livery barn right there. That's how close it was. And that's Olive. No, that's Olive. That's Margaret. That's Olive. So that's me. So Ron had to get in on the picture, but he's standing away from him. Yeah. This gal here, her and her husband lived down in Arizona for the winter, and we went to see them one time. And her husband was an ex-Mountie, and her dad ran the store. He used to give us candy. You know, we'd go for nickels worth of candy. He'd give a whole bag full. And of course, Gina's cousin Spence, his dad owned the store. He said, yeah, he used to tell me lately, you know, when I saw him in Saskatchewan late, he'd say, yeah, he's always giving away my dad's profits. So that was them. But this one here, she had, you can't really see it, her big knees and arms and stiff neck. She had rheumatoid arthritis, so bad, and her dad was a doctor. Her and they were sisters.
So in 1939, you guys have come through the Depression, and what was it like then coming into Calgary?
Coming into Calgary was like going to heaven.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yep. And that was the day, I think that was either the day we left the farm, or it had been just a few days before. Because all was left on the farm was this horse with a colt, the colt, and Ron had I think he had a calf and a dog. And I think I thought the dog was there, but I guess he isn't. He spent some of the winter there, and then there was other people that owned, these people that lived just out of town, Duffins. They had 3 or 4 sons. They had a bunch of kids, actually. But they had 2 sons that were a little older than him, I think. And the mother said, he used to go and visit them quite often, for a meal, I think. And finally his mother said, you bring your animals over here and stay with us. You're not going to stay in that god-darn house all by yourself for the winter. So he took his dog and his horses and his calf over to their place. And so the other boys were joining up in the spring. So guess what he did? He went and joined up too. So that's when he joined the army. So then the farm was left. Mind you, it was only just, the farm was given to my dad to farm. He came out from England on what they called the soldiers' settlement, where the government was, they wanted people out here to farm this land in Saskatchewan and Alberta, I believe, and also Australia. He could have had a choice of going to Australia or Canada. He chose Canada, and so the farm was, he didn't pay for anything for it. Didn't pay anything for it. He just farmed it. And then after we left, relatives of this one I said was killed over in England. Well, actually, it was his cousin. What's his name? Earl. Here. This is his cousin. They were all McGilverys. There was three McGilvery families. These 2 were on the farm. He was the only boy of 6 girls, with 6 sisters, and they. It was his sister and her husband that took over the farm and farmed it after we left, and farmed it right through till we went to visit it one time, and the next time we went there for a reunion, he told us, he said, if you're going out to see the farm, he said, I have to warn you, the house is gone. He said it was leaning, he had horses running in there, and he was afraid it would fall over, the horses would injure, because they would use it for shelter. So he had to knock the house down. But, and of course the barn burned down. While we were living in town, there was a big fire out at the farm. They had been, Belle was out there at the time cooking for them, and they were going to start spring work. It was, I think it was Ron's birthday, May the 2nd, that it burned down. And we didn't, I don't think we had a phone. I know we didn't. But we had a central, what they called central, where all the, well, it'd just be like AGT here, you know, or TELUS here. And that morning, it came through on a big horn. You could hear it all over the town. The Thompson barn was on fire. And what they had done, they had been burning, hey, turn that off. We're talking. Thank you. You can turn it on later, okay? And yeah, they had been out burning thistles and stuff, getting ready to farm the land. And they came in for lunch, and Belle that day, the table used to sit on the window where you could look out and see the barn. But she had cleaned house. She had cleaned house that day, and she moved the furniture, moved the table over on this wall. So they were sitting there having lunch, and somebody said, what's that crackling? And they looked out the window, the barn was on fire. So they took off, the horses were in the barn. They took off and they got all the horses and the harnesses out of the barn, and it burned everything there except the house and the toilet. There was a cow barn, there was a chicken house, there was hay stacks, straw stacks. It took the whole works. And then of course these McGilverys that lived close, they got out and plowed a thing around their trees in their place so that sparks were flying, so it wouldn't catch onto their place. But there was nothing they could do, just let it burn. But they got everything out, they got the horses out. But what they had done in burning, they had dragged in some of this stuff, and it had caught fire onto some of the straw or something around the barn. Yeah. So that was the farm. It no longer existed.
Okay.
Okay. This is coming from Saskatchewan in that truck. And this is the people that brought us here. Grandma. And we, Marg sat in the front with them. The three of us were back. Why they didn't put us in behind the cab, I will never know. We were right at the back end of the truck with our heads stuck out over the top. Can you imagine the wind we got? If they traveled as fast as they do now, we wouldn't have made it. The tarp came right back to where our heads stuck out. And we had a cat in there, underneath there too. But that's how we left Saskatchewan with a blizzard.
Is to make things big.
We left Calgary in a blizzard, and that's why we're dressed like that. And this is the daughter of the people that their daughter. And little Billy, this guy here, when I first went back to Saskatchewan, I run into him. He's tall, big, tall, son of a gun, gray hair, and I said, somebody said, that's Billy Newton. I said, oh, Billy. I said, I got a picture of you when you were about so high. He said, really? I said, yep. He said, I want to see it, so I took it and showed it to him. And so we were great friends after that. Last time I saw her, she was a mess. She must be gone by now. And but Milton, great big tall. They were all tall, but there was a big family there too. And then this is our house in where the store was. That's the front of the store. Around the side, Grandma and me. But that was probably a weekend when he was home. And that's Willie. He's in his uniform there, so he must have been home on a weekend or something. And Grandma. And Pop. And we brought this old dog from home too. She lived to be 18 years old. Bill and Pop in the uniform. He was probably home on leave. And that's Ron and the cadets. And Grandma. And this is something funny here. This dress that Grandma's got on, like we wore the same clothes. This dress Grandma's got on, I've got it on here.
No.
Same dress.
Yeah.
And that's all. Ron was still in the cadets.
And Grandma always had a hat on, right? Because
she wore a hat. Well, she made her hats.
She made her hats.
Yeah, that was her trade when she was young.
Yeah.
She worked in a hat shop, in a millinery shop.
Millinery,
yeah.
right.
And yeah, she made her hats. I think I've still got one that she made for me. And that's Ruth. When she was little. She spent more time at our place than she did at home.
Now this was Grandpa started up a store there, right?
Yeah, well, actually it was Grandma that started. Well, I guess he helped, but he was still in the Air Force, and she was running the store. Her and the two girls run the store. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a long time, till he got out of the Air Force.
So was it a store already established, and you guys came to it, or
no,
started it
the
up?
place was empty. It had been. That's the back of it again. Must have a picture of the front of it somewhere. That's the back of it. And that's our bedroom's upstairs, where the pump house was, and that's off to the side. And the old street pictures they used to take. Mm-hmm. You know, Grandma, she wouldn't even go out with me downtown unless I wore a hat. That's how sticky she was with hats. Mm-hmm. I looked bored to tears there. So, and this was a woman that they knew back in England. She went to school with Grandma. They visited her a lot. 1943. But Pop, that was him in the Air Force. He was a cook. Mm-hmm. Butcher. And a butcher. 45. That's him there and a buddy. That's me when I joined up.
In 1943.
43. I joined up in... I should have all these dates marked down for you guys because it didn't happen to me. I joined up in March of 1943, and I was discharged in November of 44. It was almost 2 years.
And you did. That was the Air Force.
It was the Air Force. And I've got a little album of me packing parachutes or so. And this was time when I was home on the weekend. I was in the Air Force there. And I was home for the weekend. That's Ruth again. Ruth was in most of these pictures with us. I got the uniform on there. Both of us there. It's your dad and I. Ron.
Now you guys were you married at that? No.
No, in 43 we were married in January 44. It was before we got married. See, this was before we got married. That would be in 43. Mm-hmm. Also, and I cut a guy out of the middle of us here we didn't like. There was three of us on this, and Ron again, and there's one here. This one here, I believe. This guy got up pretty high in the Air Force. This is the girl that was she was my bridesmaid. Her there.
Well, there's the wedding.
Yeah.
In 44, you said.
In 44, yep. January 29th, 44. It was 64 years ago.